Ambassador Gil, thank you very much that you agreed to do this interview. Let me start with this question. You're widely known as a global expert in digital technologies, artificial intelligence. To begin with, is it even correct to say artificial intelligence in a way that people mean this technology? I mean, it is not real intelligence.
You're absolutely right. So this is a term that often misleads. I think a correct way of looking at it would be augmentation to human capacity and not replacement of human intelligence. We do not understand human intelligence very well. So how can we pretend to approximate that intelligence with something artificial? So it is stuck this term now. The media uses it, we all use it, but we have to be careful that we don't misunderstand the nature of technology.
When you see in news some new tech product has become even smarter or can generate a content that's almost indistinguishable from reality, do you feel concerned or alarmed?
I don't feel alarmed, but I do feel concerned because this means that humans can be misled, they can be manipulated. What is called misinformation and disinformation becomes cheaper to produce and more powerful to implement. So there are concerns. At the same time, these capabilities bring a lot of opportunities for accelerating progress on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. For example, these same models can be used to create financial advisors who can then reach out to people in their own language and help them make right financial decisions. They can also be used to bridge the last mile gap between government services and citizens. So there are these two sides. And if we govern these technologies well, then we can minimize the risks and lift up the benefits.
There was a time when world was locked in Cold War, race between superpowers in the fields of nuclear weapons. Today, some experts say that we face a new era of Cold War, but now the weapons are not nuclear arms, missiles, but data and artificial intelligence. Do you agree with that opinion?
I think we have to be careful to apply Cold War analogies to artificial intelligence and data. Nuclear weapons and missiles were largely made by governments and in concentrated manner at specific facilities. They had a certain destructive potential, very little beneficial use, except if you shift away and look at nuclear reactors that produce energy. This is not the case for data and AI. Data and AI are ubiquitous. They are present in our lives. As soon as we pick up a phone and give a search query, they kick in. So I understand that there are areas where these are being used to gain military advantage, to gain geopolitical advantage. But at the same time, there is tremendous opportunity. There is an international digital economy, a global digital economy that benefits everyone. The internet is available everywhere. So we have to deal with these technologies from more of a collaborative spirit rather than a competitive spirit.
How do you think, what poses more threat to global stability? Uncontrolled AI development or digital inequality between countries?
I think digital inequality, which extends into AI inequality, is the bigger threat because it will deprive us of the views and the innovations of a large majority of the world's population, which might actually help us reduce risks. So at the UN, it's our priority to address the digital divide, to bring meaningful digital connectivity and services to everyone on the planet. It's also our goal this year to come out with clear options for bridging the AI divide, making available compute, data, talent, and open and shared models and use cases to as many people as we can so that the AI opportunity can be democratized.
Yeah. So this is your core mission, to provide like inclusive digital development. But how can other countries meaningfully participate in a space basically dominated by global giants from tech giants from US,
Indeed.
China?
So apart from addressing the AI divide, we have a clear focus on inclusive governance of these technologies. There are 118 countries today that are not members of any leading initiative on AI governance. So bringing them into an inclusive space at the United Nations through a new policy dialogue on AI governance that's being set up this year, bringing diverse scientific perspectives from around the world into shared assessments of the direction and implication of technology through an international scientific panel. That is also being decided this year. So those are equal priorities for us at the UN, so that no country is left behind, either in terms of the governance, the rule making for the future, or in terms of the development and deployment of these technologies.
Let's move to this topic. We see that now big tech companies are gaining more and more power, some of them even political influence. And some experts say that now we can speak of a new phase of so-called dark enlightenment. I don't know, have you seen this term? Of course, yeah. Where progress is driven by speed, efficiency, profit, but not human values. So how real is the risk that ethic and equality will be sidelined in favor of corporate logic and profit?
I think we have to highlight this problem as a critical issue for our times. And we have to push back with more investments in public interest technology through digital public infrastructure that levels the playing field for all companies, small, medium, and even large companies can participate with these other companies, but on a level playing field. We also have to use regulatory instruments wisely so that there is no monopoly, no concentration of tech and economic power in a few companies. And finally, we have to make sure that consumers, citizens everywhere, can exercise more choices in terms of what they access, what they consume. So part of it is raising awareness of public officials, literacy, digital literacy of society at large. So all these levels have to be worked on to prevent the kind of situation that you described, which can be a threat to democracy and the rule of law, and our traditional structures of power and reconciliation of different points of view, which can also be a threat at the international level if you have very powerful actors that are acting outside the forums and the channels that are established for international cooperation, dialogue, resolution of conflicts and differences.
What ethical boundaries do you believe we have to set in sensitive areas like healthcare, national defense, when we talk about AI technologies? Or in other words, do we have to somehow implement these 3 laws of robotics of Isaac Asimov's in real life now?
We need their modern equivalent. So in each of these sensitive sectors, we need national regulation and guidance. We also need some global norms. For example, in the health space, life and death decisions, sensitive data of individuals, application that may mislead doctors and so on, they have to be regulated through data protection, other kinds of guidelines for algorithmic transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness. Similarly, at the global level, for instance, we have the World Health Organization. It has come out with guidelines on the use of data and AI in health. So global organizations at the UN and elsewhere have to step in terms of standards, in terms of harmonizing different regulatory approaches. And then we also have to promote responsible behavior at the level of companies through ethical frameworks. And you can multiply this sectoral approach to other areas. The military domain, with which I am familiar from a previous experience chairing negotiation on lethal autonomous weapons is a special case where we have to make sure that existing legal obligations like international humanitarian law continue to apply to these increasingly autonomous systems. And we also have to make sure that certain boundaries, ethical boundaries, are not crossed, where machines can autonomously take life and death decisions.
Is the international law now keeping up with the pace of development this technology? I mean, AI in military.
The short answer is no.
Mhm.
So there is ongoing negotiations and discussions, which the Secretary General of the United Nations has asked to be accelerated. He set a timeline for there to be a ban on precisely this notion of autonomous life and death decisions. So we need to work harder to put in place new understandings, new commitments that are fit for the AI age.
Mhm. Can we talk today about digital human rights? Is it time to put this specific term like in a regulatory, in the laws? How do you think?
Yes. So human rights are a very, very important area where we must pay attention to how digital and emerging technologies are impacting on the rights of individuals, rights of groups, cultural, economic, social, civil, and political. And many countries have taken clear steps. Spain, for example, has come out with a guidance on digital human rights. In the United Nations, we have had experts looking at how human rights under existing obligations apply in the digital age. For instance, the Child Rights Convention, CRC. So the committee of experts there has come out with Journal Comment 25 that clarifies how these international obligations apply to children who are now contributing 1/3 of the data globally. So we need more work of this kind. We also need matching work nationally, the work of e-safety commissioners, specific laws and regulations on protection of vulnerable groups, minorities, children, and women, and also obligations on companies, whether they are negotiated by the companies themselves with the assistance of independent experts, or they are in response to national and international obligations. Companies need to, because that is where most of the interaction is. We've seen how social media platforms have impacted on human rights in the past. We have seen situations in some countries in Southeast Asia where killings happened because hatred was spread on social media. So companies need to assume more responsibility. And everywhere, we need remedies and we need accountability for individuals to be able to contest decisions by companies and governments when it comes to their rights in the digital space.
Ambassador Gill, I've got one more last question. Correct me if I'm wrong. The UN has launched an initiative to create a global digital compact. So what risks and hopes do you associate with this initiative and project?
This is the most significant development in the space of digital and emerging technologies at the UN. So last year in September at the Summit of the Future, 193 member states of the UN adopted the Global Digital Compact, which sets clear principles, objectives, and actions in 5 areas, including for the first time, establishing new mechanisms for the governance of AI globally. I mentioned the scientific panel, the policy dialogue, the capacity development work on AI. For the first time, again, the GDC launches a discussion on the governance of data at the global level. And in a very interesting way, it brings the current preoccupations of governments with the digital economy, which is often the fastest growing part of the national economy, to the center of the conversation in the United Nations on digital cooperation. We need more collaboration, a collaborative approach, as I mentioned earlier, rather than competitive approaches. And therefore, the Global Digital Compact provides us a comprehensive framework for international cooperation on digital and emerging technologies. And my office was set up, formalized after the adoption of the Global Digital Compact to support not only governments, but other stakeholders like private companies to come together so that we can build an open, secure, empowering, and sustainable digital future for all.
Ambassador Gil, thank you very much for your dedication to this mission. You're one of those persons who make the world a better place to live in. So thank you very much for this interview.
Thank
It
you
was a pleasure.
for your kind words. Thank you for the opportunity.